We'll move on, POX, to a more light-hearted story. Now, I use light in the loosest possible terms. This happened in America, in Detroit, I believe, and it relates to a woman called Dajou Blanding, and she's known as Dank the Moss. I think that's her rapper name. She's not an aspiring rapper. She's the real deal, okay? I know it's going to blow your mind, but she's the real deal. She claims to weigh approximately 500 pounds. Now, she ordered a Lyft from a company called Lyft, spelled L-Y-F-T. And when the guy turned up, he decided that he wasn't going to let her into the car. And I believe she is now going to sue the Lyft company. Have you seen any photos or have you seen any videos in relation to this?
I have. Yeah, I have seen the pictures. I did hear about the story, or read about it rather. Yeah, pretty ridiculous. Where do you think the what do you think the results of her lawsuit will be?
I believe she will, even if she loses, let's say she loses the lawsuit, I think she'll still make a lot of money from doing media interviews, and she'll get so much money that she'll no longer need to depend on companies like Lyft. She'll have her own limousine, and that'll be spacious. That'll be spacious. But I saw the video yesterday, and I was laughing my head off. It's total clown world stuff, and you see videos like this all the time now. But this one, I thought, took the biscuit, and there was no. I watched her in an interview, and there seems to be no sense of responsibility in her. Like if she gets up to 500 pounds, this is what she claims that she weighs. There's no accountability. There's no, I should lose a few pounds. It's just, I'm a total victim, and the society at the moment, it celebrates that, and it will reward you for being in that sorry state.
Yeah, well, again, this is what I was saying earlier. It's not just my distaste with American power, American imperialism, American Zionism. The American people are, I don't know how else to put it, it's like a gag reflex. I was in America for the first time in years, like the first time in 10, 11 years, I had to go back to America. And it's like watching wildebeest meander through the savannah. They're so enormous. And you can say, oh, those aren't real Americans. Blacks aren't real Americans, or these Squatamalans, as they are called, aren't real Americans. But, I don't care. We don't get the luxury of that. You, Betwixt, as an Irishman, don't get to have the luxury of saying that all the Irish people with Palestinian flags in their bios and shouting Palestine for the Palestinians, but if you say Ireland for the Irish, they'll call you a racist. You don't get the luxury to say, oh, those aren't real Irishmen. Yes, they are. They're just as Irish as you. They're retarded, but they're just as Irish as you, and you have to bear the burden of living in a society with them. You don't get the luxury of saying, oh, those aren't real Irishmen. Okay? It's the same in Italy. All the far leftist Italians, the neo-communists, the Antifa, I don't get the luxury of saying those aren't real Italians. In fact, they're more Italian than me, because probably both of their parents are, racially Italian, whereas I only have the one. So they're more Italian than I am. But yeah, they're leftist communist freaks. But I don't get the luxury of saying, oh, those aren't real Italians. Real Italians are conservative, traditional, so we don't get these cop-outs. And yeah, it's the thing. It's like, can you imagine being sat next to that person on a plane? In a cinema. It's I don't want to hear about how America is this paradise when in America they've been living with these degenerate conditions, these degenerate people for far longer. It's Europe that's being remade, recreated in America's disfigured image. And if I call out America's problems and say I don't want Europe to be like America, I get all these Americans crying in my mentions, in my replies, or saying I'm being divisive. Well, I'm sorry, I don't want to live in America 2.0.
You said about imagine being on a plane, with this woman, and I actually asked a few people about this. I said, if you were on a plane with a woman that size, I said, do you think she's going to occupy 2 seats? Let's say there are no armrests or whatever. She's going to occupy 2 seats. And I was saying to them, like, should she have to pay for 2 seats? And a lot of these bleeding hearts said, absolutely not. She shouldn't be discriminated against for her, her elephantine dimensions.
Well, then even think of the poor Lyft driver. He's not allowed to protect his vehicle, the machine he uses to make a living. He's not allowed to protect its well-being, I guess, its functionality. And just, I thought America was the land of the free, but he's not allowed to say, look, you don't fit in my car, and I don't want to run the risk of you cramming yourself into my car to see if you can fit. So no, I'm canceling your order. I'm canceling your ride. And that's my right. No. In the land of the free, you're not actually free. You have to bake the cake for the gay couple. You have to hire blacks or let them into your shop or let them into your car. And you have to let the obese people onto the plane. There's all sorts of ways in which America is not the land of the free and hasn't been for ages. Oh, but they have fewer regulations and more tech startups. Big deal. I don't care. In my daily life, I don't care how many tech startups are in the goddamn country. This is daily life. I don't want my life to be in danger because of some obese DEI pilot, or to be in constant discomfort because I can't go to the cinema, I can't, go to a restaurant, I can't even walk down the street, or even just be safe in my own home without these animals, these savages, these wildebeests raving and ranting. And it's not just the black population, it's the whole population of this discombobulated country. I've seen videos of white people shooting each other at point blank range because of a dispute over the snow they were shoveling into each other's driveways, or because they threw a bit of rubbish into the other person's backyard. So out come the guns and bang, bang, bang. I've read stories of a group of kids in a car, a story, but there are probably stories of this, multiple stories, plurality of stories. A group of kids in a car driving through some country roads. They need to reverse, but you can't reverse on a one-way country lane. So they pull into a driveway, and in these country roads, in these foresty areas, it's not just a driveway, it's a long sort of driveway. And in order to get back out of the driveway to like the roundabout area of the driveway, you have to follow the path of the driveway, and then you turn around and go back the other way and back out into the road, and you can go the opposite direction. They did that. The man whose home they are approaching in their car, just, I don't know, main character syndrome, thinking that you're in some sort of Rambo film. He suspects that they're home invaders, and he just gets out his gun and shoots into the car and kills some 20-year-old girl sitting in the passenger seat. Oh, but we got guns, Second Amendment. I'm fucking glad there aren't a bunch of guns in European countries. Given the filth that has come to our countries over the past 10 years, I'm glad that all they can do is use knives. Could you imagine if they had guns? We'd be in just the same situation. In this month alone, January, the first month of 2025, do you know how many blacks have killed whites already in just January alone in the United States? The last time I checked, the number's probably gone up, obviously. So the last time I checked. Do you know how many have died in the United States, whites killed by blacks already? Take a guess.
100?
Oh, Jesus Christ. Not that
much. I presumed it was going to be high. I presumed it was going to be high.
Like I said, the number's gone up. The last time I checked, it was 21. 21 already.
Now it doesn't sound as bad.
It doesn't sound as bad. But I mean, but again, again, it's a daily occurrence. Like what Axel Rudikabana did in Southport happens like daily. School shootings, more and more frequent. People out of their minds on SSRI drugs. You know, we have these troon shooters now. I'm sorry, it's great to have guns for self-defense, and I think Europe should have a bit more relaxed rules for how to acquire a gun, and certainly have more relaxed rules for self-defense. You made a video about the Spanish elderly gentleman who defended his home from a migrant with a chainsaw, and now he's been sent to prison because he defended his home with armed violence.
Plus, he had to pay that guy's parents and his siblings. He had to pay them
just
substantial sums.
An atrocious miscarriage of justice. It wasn't even a miscarriage of justice. It's anti-justice. But those sort of things happen in America too, by the way, or depending on the state. Because again, there's places in America which are very liberal and progressive. You know, there are, Donald Trump just pardoned some pro-life Christians who'd been sent to prison under the Biden administration, under the auspices of the Biden administration, for protesting abortion. They were rotting in jail cells in the land of the free with the First Amendment. Douglas Mackey is in jail for a meme. He's the guy who made the texture vote for Hillary meme. He's in jail still for that. In the land of the free with the First Amendment. So again, Americans just have this unbelievably false, mythologized image of their own country, and they try and lord it over us, the Europors, their supposed friends and allies. But it's false. It's false. And I've spoken before about how you have more protection from state persecution in the United States, perhaps, but you don't have any protection from social persecution. I can say things in Europe, and maybe I might risk being persecuted by the state. I mean, I've never really said anything. I think they'll come after you any way they can. It doesn't matter. But I can speak openly with Europeans about things and have no reservations. And in fact, Europeans will agree with me. Even the ones that vote for center-left parties just because that's what they've always done, they're all fed up with the immigration. They're all pretty much just like innately racist. They just don't realize it. Although some of them even say, "Yeah, I'm racist. I don't care. They can call me whatever they want." I've had these conversations. In America, I would probably not be able to have those conversations unless I was, you know, in Appalachia or something and within a very trustworthy company. But yeah, quality of life matters. And I don't want to live in a country where people are on edge all the time, treading water to stay afloat, taking antidepressants, morbidly obese, and armed, and willing to kill you over minor disputes about snow or rubbish, or sue you for not letting their fat mass into your car, which is your livelihood. It's just ridiculous. There's this guy on YouTube. He's called No Cap on God. He does like troll videos. It's kind of old hat, but the way he does it is refreshingly funny. He will assume various characters, and then he'll go to these public events. It could be a Free Palestine protest, or a women's march, or even a MAGA rally, and he'll just troll whoever are these people. So if he's going to the MAGA rally, he'll troll the MAGA-tards. If he's going to a pussy march, he'll troll the feminists. And he's very clever. He does it in a very funny way. But my goodness, I've watched some of his videos, and it looks like a cartoon country. It looks like he's interacting with cartoon characters. They're all like fat, round. They look perfectly round. No one has a chin. No one has a neck. It's just a big head. And these flabby arms. They look like the characters from Wall-E. And The way they talk, it's like cavemen. Blah, 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 blah. It's just insane. I'm watching, and it's just bizarre. What has happened to these people? It's what was either done to them or what they've allowed to be done to them, which is why I'm not going to put up with some twat on Twitter, saying, I don't remember his name. He's some conservative commentator posting this entire thread on Twitter about why are the English so passive? Why do they allow Pakistanis to rape their girls and don't do anything about it? It's like, you retard. Why don't you look in the mirror? How many migrant centers have you burned down? Where's your BNP or EDL equivalent? How many pedophile vigilante hunting groups have the Americans formed? Because I know a bunch of Englishmen who have. Why are the English so passive? Why are you so passive? You Americans who are now 50% obese, 75% overweight, sitting on your asses eating Cheetos all day, watching college football. You've become minorities in your own country. You allowed an illegitimate government to rule for 4 years. You didn't do anything about it. And everything that's happening in England, everything that's happening in France, everything that's happening in Germany with regards to demography and civil rights, prohibiting us from defending ourselves and having freedom of association and a country of our own, all that happened to you first. And you passively allowed it to happen. And just like there are Europeans in our countries that are welcoming it because they're far left, they're progressives, they're communists, there were the same kinds of people in America too that welcomed integration, civil rights, supported MLK, all that. There isn't a single American, not one, who has any right to point a finger, to gloat, or to insult, or to criticize Europeans, whether it's the English, the Irish, the French, the Germans, the Italians, etc. Not one. The only extension of the European family that has a right to say to any of us, siblings in the European family, cousins, to say to us, hey, get your act together. Stand up for yourselves. Take action. Are the Boers in Oranje. They're the only ones. They're the only ones who can legitimately say that they are doing something, they're taking action, they're defending themselves, they are loyal to their in-group, and they're setting a good example. But I definitely don't want to hear it from Americans.
Yeah, just to get back to that plane scenario, the person or the people who would say that a morbidly obese person who occupies 2 seats shouldn't have to pay for 2 seats, and I said to them, well, what if I said it's very likely the airline is not going to give away a free seat. I said, how about the other passengers foot the bill? It's not going to turn out to be much because 100 odd passengers, maybe it's going to be 25 cents extra. Everyone just pays 25 cents. And the bleeding hearts frowned when I said this, and they said, no, we don't agree with that. And then you could see they were thinking maybe she should have to pay because I shouldn't have to pay for her, So I think these bleeding heart types, liberals, leftides, call them what you will, when it hurts their wallet, they will change their stance very, very quickly. POX, go through a very final topic. I can't find your tweet here, but I did see it yesterday. You sent out a tweet. It was about, I think it's like autistic children. They're thinking that they can now make autistic children happier by giving them an AI Playmate or something like that.
Yeah, that was Elon Musk in an interview. He's being I don't know if he's being interviewed or he's just sort of in conversation with Rishi Sunak. I don't know when this took place, But yeah, Elon Musk is talking with Rishi Sunak about how one of his sons has difficulty making friends. He's a bit lonely and has difficulty making friends. And Elon envisions a future where an AI, a robot, I suppose, I guess, I mean, hopefully it's not just an app on his computer or on his phone. So an AI robot could be his son's friend, and it would know everything about him. It would know him even better than his son knows himself. And as long as Elon Musk goes on to say that, as long as something doesn't go wrong, like the AI gets switched off, he would have a friend for life, a friend that knows him better than anyone else, and that would be good for him. It'd be good for his son. And I just asked, are we sure we want to go down that road? Rather than giving this child, who might not always have difficulty making friends, perhaps he's just going through a phase, as we all go through phases in life where some things just don't come easy. And he's finding out even who he is. I don't know how old this kid is, but he's probably very young. And maybe he just doesn't relate to the people around him because he's more intelligent or he's more sensitive. Maybe he's got some artistic sensibilities that are waiting to come out. So instead of giving him some books or helping him softly pursue a hobby or an art or a craft, the solution that someone like Elon Musk has in mind is to just give him a robot friend. I don't think we need to cut ourselves away from nature more than we already are. It's not a knee-jerk conservative reaction to change or to novelty. I think this Pandora's box is open. There's no closing it. I suspect that some of AI is overrated and overvalued, as we've just seen with the whole DeepSeek recent developments. But perhaps in my lifetime, perhaps after I'm gone. But yeah, like the whole Blade Runner world is probably going to exist. An amalgamation of all the sci-fi dystopias is probably going to come into fruition. And, there's nothing I can do about it. But in the meantime, it's still worth, it doesn't have to be that bad. It's not predestined. And we still have a chance to not get this entirely wrong. This new glorious tech revolution. And so maybe we should be asking, do we really want children who have difficulty making friends when they're 8 years old to just have an AI friend that knows everything about them, and that's the solution to their loneliness or their slight differences? I mean, I don't even think Musk said that his kid was autistic. It's not even an autistic kid. It's just a kid who's has some trouble making friends. That's fine. Maybe it's a good thing that given the quality of children nowadays and just people in general, maybe it's a good thing that he keeps himself to himself and would rather, maybe he likes being on his own. I don't know all the details, but just that the solution is a robot friend. I don't know.
Maybe the child was caught fidgeting and now has 101, mental diseases.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. It is interesting. And there was a film there a few years ago called Megan, and it was like a kind of horror about a child who has an AI friend. But I do hear that children are, for example, they have this Alexa in their homes and they'll ask Alexa to sing them a song or to tell them a joke. And, I can understand the utility of something like this for kids who have, they want to know things and all the rest. But it becomes quite dark when they start associating that, voice that's made up of ones and zeros to be a real human being. And
also, are we not putting at risk our own human ability to come up with jokes. Like one of the ways you develop a sense of humor is, well, I think you're sometimes kind of born with it, you know. But other ways is that you trial and error, you read the room, you feel the vibes from people, you can sort of intuit what they're going to laugh at, what they'll find funny, what might shock them and get a laugh out of them. You know, if you're around friends who appreciate taboo pushing, breaking taboos, you can make a funny racist joke or something and they'll appreciate it. With another group of friends, maybe not. Maybe some people appreciate a good pun and others don't. So you test out what people find funny. And if you're just now turning to a robot to do it for you, you know, hey, Chat GPT, generate a half-an-hour stand-up comedy special for me. Is that really where we want to go? You know, we're approaching a future where they told us that with AI and automation and robots, that they would do all the grunt work, and we humans could just prance around like fairies and elves and unleash our artistic potential and just spend all our days philosophizing and making art. But it seems like actually how it's going to play out in real life is we humans will continue doing the grug work before we get replaced by the AI and the automation. We'll continue doing grug work for a few more years, and it's the AI that's going to make all the art and do all of the philosophizing. Are we sure we want to live like that? And here's the funny thing too. Some other stuff that I've been saying lately, and some people understood what I was saying because they understand that European values, Western civilization, is not just limited to the Anglo-American values of tabula rasa, egalitarianism, and liberal democracy. There is more to Western civilization than John Locke and the American founding fathers. And I was saying that it was sort of tongue-in-cheek, but a lot of people didn't appreciate the tongue-in-cheekness of it and got very angry because, again, you're being divisive. And I just said, look, maybe it's time that we, you know, the Anglosphere had a good run. They were the leaders of the so-called West for a good century or two. They had a good run, but maybe it's time we return leadership of European civilization back to its true masters. And I just posted a picture of, like, you know, France and Italy and Germany. And, you know, I was trying to imply that there's a deeper tradition in Europe of sort of, you know, Mediterranean fascism, the Roman Empire, German idealism. And we don't have to just do what Anglophone liberals say for the rest of our lives. And there's all sorts of reasons why people should start exploring this question. Because one of the reasons is, I think, that the state should intervene with these lab coats and whatever they're getting up to with regards to AI. Because everyone knows, Elon Musk has said this himself. Others have said this. Whistleblowers, some of whom have ended up dead with, you know, 2 gunshot wounds to the head, but it's a suicide. Okay, they've all said the lab coats developing AI, the revenge of the nerds, they don't know what they're doing. Or worse, they do know what they're doing, but they won't stop. And they're going to create artificial intelligence that will have immense destructive force on people's livelihoods, their jobs. No one is thinking about, well, what are we going to do with these people once their jobs get replaced by automation? What's going to happen to millions of people who just wake up and their jobs are now obsolete? Because it's not just that, you know, automation, industrialization replaces jobs, creative destruction, that whole theory. Okay, but that happened at a much slower pace. Even in the Industrial Revolution, compared to the Industrial Revolution, the changes that are going to take place with this tech revolution are much faster. So the state should intervene with the force of men with guns behind them and say, actually, we're shutting you down until we figure out all of the consequences of what you're developing. You autistic spurgs who don't care about humanity, who have no empathy, who have no friends. You don't care. You're just obsessed with, the data and the coding and, whatever. You don't actually care about humanity. You freakish lab coat spurgs. So we're going to shut you down in order to avoid catastrophe. Because it's not just the consequences in the economy and people's livelihoods. It's, are you creating Skynet, basically? Okay. And Musk has said, if we get this wrong, the human race is finished. Whistleblowers have said, Sam Altman either doesn't know what he's doing or does know that what he's doing is going to be disastrous, catastrophic, so unbelievably dangerous, and they're going ahead with it anyway. But in the paradigm of Anglo-American liberalism and free market capitalism, you can't do that because that would be socialism. That's a dictatorship. No, we can't violate the rules of liberalism and democracy and freedom and capitalism. That's a no-no. Well, I'm sorry then. I guess we need to step over Anglo-American values, quote unquote values. And who would be the kind of person who would step in and use the power of the state to get a private corporation under control? A Mussolini? A Hitler? A Mosley? Well, maybe we need some of that then. I just think, this whole we've been conned, we've been deceived by decades and decades and decades of propaganda into thinking that the American dream is the best, that we all need to live according to the American standard. And I'm here to say that it's snake oil. And if you don't like the world the way it is and where it's going, why don't you identify the people who made it and the people who are directing it? They have names and faces. And yeah, you can bang on about the JQ you want. Some of them are Jews. But where are they? They're in America. And they're not all Jews. A lot of them are WASP Americans. Is that divisive? I don't really care. It's just true.
When you get this corporatism, you end up with companies like Blackwater running roughshod over the American government. And likewise, when you ignore it, you turn your back on it, it's eventually going to come to your door. And that's what happened during the scamdemic. American corporatism, the style of American corporatism, took over every facet of our lives so that there could be a massive transfer of wealth. And to do so, they had to instill fear in the masses, and they had to separate grandchildren from grandparents and all the rest of it. They had to put muzzles on everyone's faces, including children's faces. They had to put crime scene tape across children's playgrounds, all so that the fat cats could get fatter.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's worth
this is a
pointing out
problem.
too,
this is where you need a strong...
We still don't know. The CIA can come out and say, oh, we now believe that it was leaked from a Wuhan laboratory. Okay, I don't really trust what the CIA says. And I still lean towards the fact that this was an American abomination. What happened to the investigations into Fauci and the Wuhan lab that was owned and operated by Americans and their gain of function practices and all that? What happened to looking into that? Oh, well, now Fauci's been preemptively pardoned. That's curious. So we'll never really know. But I think all fingers point to America. Who benefited the most from the scamdemic? Well, you just said it. American fat cats. Really, American corporations. And their adjacent equivalents throughout Europe and the rest of the world. But clearly the winners were the American corporate class and Silicon Valley and the tech bros and the people who want to create this. It's Larry Ellison, for God's sakes.
Yeah, I don't like POX. I don't like the idea of a strong, a government that's very, very strong. But now we're on the global stage. You're going to need strong governments to stop things like that from happening. Happening again and again and again. These private companies just taking over everything. So right, we'll move on to the final part, POX. Let people know where they can find you. I'll put links in the description of this video, and I'll leave you also with the parting shot, if you will.
Well, I'm on Substack. That still goes by POX POPULI at substack.com, I believe it is. I'll probably be writing something about this. I was kind of taking January off, was the idea, to just have a month off from the Substack, and I'll probably be back to doing the usual routine of 2 to 3 Substacks a month. And this topic of the American question will probably be the next thing I write for the Substack. And then I'm on X at Foxes Foxes. And I think I've said pretty much everything I could possibly say. So I don't want to ramble on again. So I'll just throw it back to you.
Okay, well, I recommend people do go over and subscribe to POX on his Substack and follow him also on Twitter. Thanks for coming on, POX, and we'll chat again at some stage soon.
Thank you. My pleasure.